All right, gentlemen, so in front of me, I have 7 of my favorite watches. Those watches are the TAG Heuer Monaco Calibre 11, the Monta Triumph with a beautiful blue dial, the Grand Seiko GMT Shosho, the Yema Superman limited edition in bronze, the Rolex Datejust 41, the Tudor Blackbay 58, and Timex's Todd Snyder military field watch. Now, as I was looking at these watches the other day, I asked myself the question, if I could only keep one, which one would it be? Now, the immediate answer for a lot of you guys is just keep the most expensive one, or maybe just keep the one that you wear the most. And those are perfectly legitimate answers, but they're not fun. I wanted to make this video interesting, so let's eliminate some of those key factors. So in today's video, we're not going to focus in on price, because I got watches here that cost well over $10,000. And I've also got watches here that you can pick up on eBay for 150 bucks. Oh, another key factor we're going to throw out: sentimental value. The Grand Seiko Shosho. This was a watch I picked up with my son, daughter, and nephew when I was visiting Tokyo this last summer. So the idea, in theory, is if I throw those factors out, then I will just be able to select the watch I just like the look of, I like the functionality of, the watch that I just think is the most fun and enjoyable. So which watch will it be? Well, gentlemen, that's the subject of today's video. So the first watch I want to talk about is the least known brand on this list, and that is Monta, in particular, their Monta Triumph. So it was about 4 to 5 years ago, and I was looking for a micro brand, one that was high quality at the same time, something that looked unique, something that looked beautiful. And I came across Monta. Their website was beautiful, and I saw that Triumph. And for me, it was the blue dial mixed in with that light brown band. To me, this was just a beautiful combination. The thickness, the design, and when I found out these guys were based out of St. Louis, I'm like, you know what? That seals the deal. I love supporting an up-and-coming watch brand that's keeping things timeless, classic, paying attention to quality. The majority of the parts of the watch are Swiss-made, and that detail right there is what all the online reviewers were talking about. The fact that they were using quality movements that were reliable and bringing it all together in a beautiful case and finish. Now, as you can see, I chose the brown leather strap for aesthetic reasons. And for me, I have to admit, this is the limitation of the watch. You see, at least a couple times a week, I take my kids to the pool. And I realize, with a leather strap like this, I just don't want to be going in and out of the water. Just all that water drying, getting wet, it's going to suck the life out of that strap. So unfortunately, even though I love the overall look, reliability, and build quality of this watch, I don't wear it as often as I would like. So as you can guess, the Monta Triumph is not going to be the watch that I keep, but it is a beautiful watch. Absolutely love it, and it's easily in my top 7. Now, some of you guys watching this video are probably thinking, Antonio, if you're going to get rid of any of these watches, hey, I'll take it, right? However, I've got over 70 watches in my collection, and over the next year, I'm giving away over 50 of them. So how to get in on this? Gents, down in the description of today's video, I'm linking over to my new community, Watch Lover. So whether you want to talk about Rolexes, whether you want to talk about G-Shocks, guys, over in our community, you're going to be welcome. If you're a newbie, you'll be welcome with open arms, and we've got courses to get you up to speed. If you're an experienced hand, you've been collecting watches for 30 years, you've been selling watches for 3 years, you know quite a bit about watches, we're looking for you to come join us and share your knowledge. Gents, as I mentioned, at this point, the community is going to be free. We're about to launch it, so down in the description of today's video, get on the early bird list, and you'll be one of the first ones to get access to it. So this next watch can be found in Grand Seiko's Elegance collection. It's their GMT reference number SBG-J249. Known affectionately by those that own it as the Shosho, the dial is what makes this watch so famous. It's supposed to represent Japanese lakes during the summer and the wind going across and creating the ripples. It's also a high beat movement watch with 36,000 vibrations per hour. On top of that, it's got a classic GMT function, which whenever I got the watch, I immediately started using. I was over in Japan, and as many of you guys know, the huge time difference between that and the United States, and not a very intuitive one. So that GMT function came in very handy. Now, over the years, I've seen a lot of luxury watches in person, but the Shosho is one of those watches that just takes your breath away because of that Zaratsu polishing. If you're not familiar, it's a high polishing process that's proprietary to Grand Seiko watches. Now, with all that that praise, you may be wondering, why isn't this the watch that you would keep? And it's got great sentimental value, which I talked about earlier, but no, throwing that out, it's the water resistance that gets me. I have no idea why they only gave this a 3-bar water resistance. Basically, that's 30 meters. And because of that, I'm very careful with this watch. I would never go swimming with it. I don't even shower with this watch. This is one that when I put on, I take off anytime I'm going to get my hands wet. And that right there kind of scares me because I'm always worried I'm going to leave it or, I'm in a bathroom. So because of that one flaw, I have to say that I love this watch. It's definitely in my top 3, but it is not the one that I would take with me, the one that I would keep, the one that would be my only go-to watch. Now, the next watch I want to talk about is the TAG Heuer Monaco Calibre 11. Now, this watch was made famous by Steve McQueen in the movie Le Mans. Now, when you look at the measurements, 39 millimeters, actually this watch seems kind of small. But then you get this thing on your wrist and you see the thickness of it, and all of a sudden it's got weight, it's got heft. It is a beautiful piece of machinery. Now, over the years, TAG Heuer has made a variety of this style of watch, but this chronograph in particular, I just find that it's elegant, it's timeless. I really do like this shade of blue. And make no mistake, this is a working chronograph. So if you were so inclined, you could actually determine the speed of a vehicle using this tool. Oh, and perhaps the most interesting feature of the watch is that the winder is on the left-hand side. Why? Well, as legend goes, this was a request by Steve McQueen because he's left-handed. Most watches are worn on the left, but the problem is if you're left-handed, you would rather have it on your right hand so that you could reach over and adjust it and wind it. And so TAG Heuer made the adjustment and as a result created an iconic watch. So then, why would this not be the watch I would keep? So first, I know it's not a factor, but sentimental value doesn't really have much to me. I bought it because of the story, and it was a watch I really liked whenever I saw it in the store. At the time as well, I convinced myself that I really needed a racing watch. I love the leather band with the holes in it, and the deployment clasp on this thing is sick. Maybe because of the size, the weight, I don't know. It just feels a little bit clunky, a little bit heavy, and even though it is 100 meters water resistant, because it doesn't have a screw down winder, I don't trust that water resistance. Overall, it's a great watch. Would it be the one watch I would keep? The answer is no. Now, this next watch is a great watch, but it's actually not in my top 7. It's probably top 10, and really it's because of sentimental value. The watch I'm talking about is my Rolex Datejust 41. It's a beautiful watch, don't get me wrong. And I think if I had an office job, if I was a consultant, if I was a lawyer, if I was wearing a suit all the time, then I would be getting my money's worth out of this thing. But the reality is, for me, this watch is a little bit too dressy. I bought this watch to celebrate my Menfluential conference. I think we had ran it successfully for a few years, and it was just a really cool event, which we're getting hundreds and hundreds of men to show up to Atlanta, Georgia, and talk about self-improvement and being their best selves. And I wanted something to commemorate that with my business partner, Aaron Marino. And again, I'm not dissing on this watch. I mean, it's got a 70-hour power reserve, and that white gold bezel definitely gives it a beautiful shine. However, if I didn't have the sentimental value with this, and if I could get exactly what I paid for it, would it be the watch I would take? The answer is no. I would probably trade this one in. But again, I'm not going to because it just has stories and I really like it. I'm sure one of my kids will want this watch. Next up, we've got the Timex by Todd Snyder. Now, if you're not familiar with Timex, they actually have a very storied history. I think going back to like 1854, they actually had a clock company is where it all started. They also made a name for themselves during the Great Depression when in 1933 they came out with the Mickey watch. Yeah, believe it or not, sales of that one watch actually kept the company afloat. But what I find interesting is that during both world wars, Timex was one of the main manufacturers for the U.S. Army. During World War I, they took their women's wristwatches, they made them into military watches for the doughboys. And during World War II, they actually made precision timers for bomb fuses and helped win the war against the Axis powers. So with that said, I decided to put this watch in here because I've always loved the look of their classic military watches. This Timex one right here was done in conjunction with Todd Snyder, so I liked it. It was overall stylish, a little bit higher build quality than some of the Timexes I've seen out there. It's got a steel 40mm case. It actually has a really nice olive green strap, and overall, I think that this is an incredibly handsome watch. And if you look closely, this is the only quartz watch on the list. And for those of you guys that don't know, quartz watches, you can tell, look at the way the hand jumps every second like that. On a quality automatic watches here with the Monta, notice how the second hand sweeps. It doesn't have that jumpy movement. Understand, in general, you're going to pay a lot more for that automatic movement. Quartz watches usually save a lot of money, and quartz watches are more accurate. And maybe that's why I really like this classic field watch by Timex, because this is an accurate piece. And you'd like to think that maybe during World War I, if they had an accurate watch like this, maybe they would have saved a few more lives in the trenches. But yeah, overall, great watch, except for the fact that it is only 50 meters water resistant. That's something that I wish they would have been a little bit more. Again, this is one of those watches, I liked it, I picked it up, and then I started, for some reason, I never read the water resistance until after I buy the watch, and then I'm like, I can't really wear this to the pool. I want something that I can take to the pool with my kids, so this one, yeah, just did not make the cut. It's a great watch, easily in my top 15, but not the one watch I would grab, the one watch I would take with me if I could only choose one. Now, this next watch does not have a water resistance issue. In fact, this watch you can wear down to 300 meters, and I wore this watch whenever I went whale diving off of the coast of Mauritius. I was there with the Yema company. They had done a sponsorship. We had all bought these watches with a Kickstarter, and I took my entire team out there, and we had a great time. I was with my son, lots of great memories, but I know I'm not going to include that, but it was just the functionality, the look, and I have to say, I fell in love with the bronze watch there and the whole patina, the idea that when you expose it to salt air, to salt water, to the elements, all of a sudden it starts to take on a unique color. Very cool when you have a watch that starts to show the stories and the travel that it's been, with you on. Now, if you're not familiar with Yema, they're a French manufacturer. They've been around since 1948, and the Superman style, in which they've basically got this mechanical clasp that will stop the bezel from turning, so that would be useful if you're diving, because you don't want to have this accidentally turn on you. So from a diving perspective, a very functional feature. They developed that, I believe, 1967, and so it's been on their Superman watches ever since. But they were acquired by Seiko back in 1988, but they were reacquired by French ownership in 2004. All that being said, the design of this watch, definitely vintage, but I have to admit, I absolutely love it. And the mistake, or actually I could still upgrade, is I don't have a band that is actually made from the same bronze material. I could probably get one custom made. I don't think Yema makes one, but if I just had that, this would be perhaps the perfect dive watch for me. Because as you could imagine, and I said it earlier, the problem with these leather straps, at least for me, going into the water, is I feel like I'm going to ruin them. And yes, I do have a rubber strap and I have a NATO strap that work with this, but I just like the way the brown looks with this, and I've got enough dive watches. And this watch came so close to being the one that I would grab if I could only take one watch with me, but which one did I end up choosing? Well, Jen's probably no surprise to a lot of you guys. The Tudor Blackbay 58 is the one watch I would probably grab, that or my Rolex Explorer, which I happen to be wearing for this video. But yeah, the Tudor Blackbay is definitely my favorite. In fact, I had a Rolex Submariner that I just got rid of because I wasn't ever wearing that watch. It was the Tudor. I kept going back to it. The size, the fit, the overall look, the finish. I absolutely love this watch. And for that reason, if I could only keep one watch, this one would probably be it. Or maybe it would be my Rolex Explorer. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to learn more about Grand Seiko, want to learn more about the Shosho, check out this video that I did a while back. It's a really great video. I go into tons of detail about why Grand Seiko is so friggin' amazing. And I talk a lot of details about this particular watch. Check it out right here.